Angela install for me.
Connie, and thank you to everyone that is attending this afternoon. My name is Andre Fernandez. I'm one of the district inspectors with San Mateo County Environmental Health, and Bernardo is our senior health inspector, who is your main point of contact moving forward for your MEHKO. So today we're going to just go over some very basic information, whether you've already had your MEHKO inspection or you're preparing for it. We're just going to go over some items that will help facilitate your approval. So we'll first start to talk about the pre-inspection work. So that includes all documentation and our expectations when we do conduct the inspection with you. And then we'll work our way into, very basic food safety information and violations that, we're going to be looking out for when we do conduct the inspection, and all future inspections. So there are some of us that have had their inspections done, and those are the initial inspections where, we just kind of review your equipment and your kitchen setup. We don't have, or we haven't had time to watch you cook, watch your cooking behavior and hygiene. So that will be conducted on your next inspection. So next slide. And next slide, please. So for those that have submitted their documents, that includes your application, your standard operating procedures, and your rental document, if you are renting your property. Next, we will reach out to you to schedule an in-home inspection with you. So these are all going to be done with arranged between the inspector and you. So there won't be any surprise inspections. 2 district inspectors will visit your home. So one of them will be Bernardo, or most of the time will be Bernardo, and another district inspector, usually the inspector that is assigned that area already. And we'll be focusing on critical risk factors. So these are any elements that we think could pose a threat to human health and safety, and that you'll have to correct immediately in order to get approval for your permit. And we'll make sure your standard operating procedures are completed appropriately per state code. Next slide. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are some documents, our application, which is just general information of where your address is, and things like that. Your standard operating procedures, those are all going to be general requirements that you will need to adhere to, and that you all already reviewed on your own time and initialed. And remember that it's very important that you do adhere to these procedures. Should you not, and we conduct an inspection and you are deviating from it, you may receive suspension of permit, or it may even be removed. So this is a new area for everyone, a new type of facility. So it's going to be very important that initially we do keep everything and do everything possible to keep you and your customers safe. And there are several items that we'd like you to consider prior to your inspection. So recently with the pandemic, household health between you and your household members is very important. So if anyone's been sick within the past 2 weeks, please let us know and we can reschedule. The inspectors will be wearing a face covering, and we do ask that you wear one as well throughout the duration of the inspection. Next slide. And items specific to your household. So if you have any cats or dogs, please secure them. If you have any pet gates that you can put up to keep them out of the inspection area prior to the inspection, that would be great also. If you live in a gated community, if you know that there's construction occurring in or near your house that may prevent us from getting to your unit, please let us know prior. If you'd like us to remove shoes, any other items pertinent to your household, please let us know so that we can facilitate the inspection as efficiently as possible. And one thing, if you can no longer attend your inspection or you're going to be late, please let us know as soon as possible. And we'll do our best to reschedule with you. So Bernardo, do you have anything to add?
No, that's pretty straightforward.
you just explained.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we'll just review basic food safety items that you will also cover or have had already covered in your food safety manager class. We'll go over PHFs and critical risk factors. So what are potentially hazardous foods? So these are foods that require time or temperature control to limit pathogenic microorganism growth or toxin formation. It's very critical that you handle these foods correctly to prevent your customers from getting sick. So the CDC will list several risk factors, and these are improper cooking temperatures. So if you have chicken, fish, are you cooking it to the right temperature? Contaminated utensils and equipment, poor personal health and hygiene, and food from unsafe sources. So you're not using vegetables or chicken or any kind of meat straight out of your backyard. These have to be from approved sources. Next slide. And also improper hot and cold holding temperatures of these PHFs. So we're going to ensure during the inspection that you are in compliance with these critical risk factors. If any of these violations cannot be corrected at the time of your inspection, or we deem that the risk is too high, we'll have to suspend approval of your permit or remove your permit and shut your operation down until it can be corrected. However, MEHKOs are exempt from several provisions of the Retail Food Code, which we'll review later. But now we're going to go over the major items that we're going to look for in your inspection moving forward. So next slide. So number one, as the owner of your MEHKO, make sure that you have a food safety manager certificate. There is a link on our website that will provide you different companies that are providing the class for you. So it is, I believe, an 6 to 8 hour class that you do need to take as the manager of your operation. Anyone else in your kitchen must have a food handler card. Please keep all of this information up to date and on file, as we may request it. Well, we will request it initially for your pre-inspection. All inspections moving forward, we expect anyone in the kitchen that is going to be cooking to have this information available. Next slide. We do understand that these are operations in your household, so there will be potentially many family members, friends, animals, lots of things going on in your house. They're not excluded from being in your kitchen while you're operating, but you, as the food safety manager, must take the precautions necessary to keep you, your customers, and your food safe. So we'll go next. So avoid any potential contamination of food. So keep all of open food and beverage containers away from any preparation that you may be doing. Identify any sources that can contaminate your food right away. Regularly clean and sanitize all of your equipment and utensils, and unwrap single-use items. So that includes appliances, spoons, forks, knives, and napkins. And like we mentioned earlier, please make sure that everyone in the kitchen is free of any illness or sickness. No one's coughing, sneezing, anything like that. And I got ahead of myself, but yeah, if anyone is experiencing sneezing, coughing, or a runny nose, please make sure they're not in the kitchen or exposed to food or equipment or utensils. Food, like I mentioned earlier, open containers, anything that you're consuming, just please make sure that you're avoiding any contamination to the food. And like I said, regularly clean and sanitize all of your equipment. Next slide. So washing hands. We know how important washing hands is, and the pandemic has definitely highlighted that. Please make sure that you have soap and paper towels available at your hand sink, and that we don't want you to dry your hands on a rag attached at your hip or a rag hanging from a cabinet. Please use single-use paper towels to dry your hands each time. when you should wash your hands. So before starting work, before you start any kind of food preparation, if you're handling raw meats and you have to transition to handling ready to eat foods or any other equipment or utensils, please wash your hands then. And prior to putting on gloves as well, please wash your hands. So during food preparation, to remove soil and contamination on your hands, switching casks, after you use the restroom, touching body parts or touching your phone, please, try not to do that while you are preparing food in your kitchen. If you do choose to wear gloves, like I said, please wash your hands before wearing gloves. But if anyone has any cuts, wounds, rashes, any areas of concern on their hands, they are required to wear gloves to prevent any contamination of the food. And change gloves as often as hand washing, and throw away your gloves when damaged, soiled, or interruption in food handling occurs. And do whatever you can to minimize bare hand contact, whether that's using gloves or using tongs. Minimize the bare hand contact. And I did mention earlier, so at all hand sinks, you should have warm water, soap, and paper towels. And in your bathroom as well. Next slide. Specific to a MEHKO operation, remember that all food that you prepare and cook should be served on the same day. So you cannot reuse food from Monday on Thursday. It all has to be done on the same day. Any PHFs that you may hot or cold hold, remember, keep all potentially hazardous foods that require cold holding below 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and all hot holding foods 135 and higher. So, from the inspections that we've done, most recently, a lot of operators are cooking to order. So this isn't really an area of concern, but if you do see that your operation is picking up business and you do have to cook items in bulk, remember to keep this in mind and be conscious of how you're holding your foods. We do not want any food to be left out at room temperature. If you do decide to use time as a control rather than temperature, you will have to discard the food after 4 hours. But it's very important that if you do leave food out not under any temperature control, that you're documenting when the 4 hours has started. So this could be on a whiteboard, this could be on a post-it note or some sticker nearby saying that, hey, you prepared this meal at 11 a.m. and it needs to be discarded in 4 hours. After the 4 hours, you can't refrigerate or reheat the food. It needs to be discarded. If this is going to be done in your operation, this should be documented on your standard operating procedures. So we will review this prior to your inspection and make sure that you are record keeping if you are choosing to use time as a public health control. And if you do need to cool, remember, cool your foods in smaller pots and pans. They will cool more efficiently. You don't want to put a big pot of soup or anything like that, like straight into your freezer. It's not going to cool efficiently. So, and if possible, use cooling tools like ice baths and cooling paddles. And remember, we did mention earlier that is, each food has a specific cooking temperature to eliminate bacteria growth. It should be cooked to this temperature for a minimum of 15 seconds. And, you'll review this in your food safety manager class also, but very important that you're aware of how your food needs to be cooked. And we did mention that food can't be used the next day, but if you do find yourself reheating food from the morning into the tail end of your operation, remember to reheat your food to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of 15 seconds. Food must be reheated to this temperature within 2 hours. And just like cooling procedures, if it's in smaller batches, it will reach this temperature a lot more efficiently. And we'll reiterate, you can only reheat for same day usage. Don't reheat food from the previous day to serve to customers. And if you do have customers that are dining on site as part of your operation, remember food that's sent out to them can't be returned and served to another customer. Just please discard the food immediately. I did touch on this earlier, but make sure that all food that you do serve is in good condition, safe, and not contaminated. And very crucial that you keep other household members in tune with this and make sure that they keep the food and area contamination free as well. Go back one slide. So your food contact surfaces, these are going to be the cutting boards, counters, utensil or plates that you prepare your food on. Please make sure they're smooth, easily cleanable, and in good repair. Hard maple can be used as a food contact surface. That is one of the exceptions of your MEHKO operation. For warewashing, please make sure you have a proper wash, rinse, and sanitize setup at your household. If you're choosing to use your dish machine, just make sure that it's operating to manufacturing specifications. And a lot of these do have a sanitized method at the end. If you have pots and pans or bigger utensils that can't fit into your dish machine, please make sure you have some sort of sanitizing agent available. For example, bleach, and that it's at a proper concentration of 100 parts per million. We ask that you guys also have test strips available to make sure that the sanitizer is still up to concentration. But after your wash, rinse, and sanitize, leave them out to air dry. Next slide. You can also use single-use wiping cloths to sanitize your surfaces, like your counters and equipment. And if you do have sanitizing cloths, please keep them in a bucket of sanitizer in between use.
Andre, are you still there?
Yeah, my computer's kind of frozen. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay, hold on, everyone.
Okay, continue on. Let's see. Violation number 15. It will be food from unsafe sources. This food you serve must come from an approved source, as we previously mentioned. So the ingredients they need to be from approved sources or permitted facilities only. These are usually state type of facilities that are registered or permitted by the state and USDA federal agencies. Next. The hot water. You need to have hot water. Here we put it on the slide 120 degrees, but usually for hot water for faucet for hand washing is usually between 100 to 110 to 108. So that would be an acceptable hot water for a hand washing station. Okay. But 120 is preferred for a throughout facility. So if sometimes there's an adjustment in the water heater that you can perhaps you can turn up. That is highly recommended. Next. Violation number 17. This is very important, especially with sewage discharge. This is to ensure the plumbing system works properly in your bathroom and kitchen. Switch backup will result in immediate closure. And we definitely recommend that if this happens to you, to definitely call an emergency plumber, have the situation fixed, and you need to voluntarily close. Do not wait for us to close you. Next. And this is another important, which is considered a major violation. Make sure you keep your house pest-proofed, free of vermin, such as rats, mice, roaches, and flies. Any infestation will result in immediate closure, as I mentioned before. This will be considered that cannot be corrected on site. So taking care of these things will be definitely recommended with a licensed pest control operator. Next. And this is pretty much a disposable food service. A lot of these meals may be to go. And for to-go meals, the County of San Mateo has an ordinance, and enforcement will begin pretty much as of March 25th next year. The ordinance will impact food facilities that operate within unincorporated San Mateo County and select cities. So you can take a look at this ordinance and the type of materials or type of disposable foodware you can use for your MEHKO in our website, smchealth.org/food, for more information. Next. Reminders, MEHKO are not allowed to sell or serve or sell raw oysters.
Recording in progress.
And produce or sell raw milk. A lot of these processes on certain food operations, they may require a HACCP plan. I'm going to give an example, like sous vide would be a trigger for a HACCP plan, which is a hazard analysis of critical control points. You cannot manufacture ice cream or any dairy product. It's not allowed for you to serve alcohol or that somebody brings alcohol without a proper ABC license. So you need to contact the state ABC for further information. You cannot resell food to other food facilities because you would be considered a wholesaler, and that's not allowed under MEHKO. But there's other programs that allows some of this, such as the Class B cottage food, but you have to stick with the approved list from the state. Also, you cannot display signage or other outdoor advertising. Okay, you can employ more than one full-time employee. Next. For complaint.
Bernard, I'm back.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so
Regarding any potential complaints that your business may have, it is up to the local code enforcement or police, and they will be following up with you if you have any complaints about noise, garbage accumulation, odors, traffic, vermin, illegal unpermitted operations, or sewage. And remember, these are all grounds for a permit to be revoked or suspended. So please do your best to keep these potential issues at bay. And here are additional resources that will be communicated out to you. You can visit our website, smchealth.org/microkitchen. All the presentations we've done, including this one, will be posted there. Lots of PowerPoint resources and PDFs for you to review, such as the application, SOPs form, and rental form. And there is an intermediary list. Bernardo, do you want to talk about that?
yeah, the state approves these third-party folks to advertise MEHKOs, and they have this approved intermediary internet providers that provide the service, and they also keep track of their sales, your MEHKO sales, and your amount of meals you may be producing. So that's another way to do that. And that is actually advertised. We don't create that list, it's the state provide this. They are the ones who approve these folks. So I would make sure that, if somebody tried to inquire about it, make sure that those folks are on that list. That's pretty much.
And then there will be a link to any food safety certification courses that are available. So you could do, or you could obtain your certificate for your manager certificate and your handler cards for anyone else working in your operation. Next slide. And questions?
You can also use the Q&A. You can type it in.
Everyone has questions, feel free to put it in the chat Q&A box. You can also raise your hand if you want to go ahead and raise your hand as a function. But yeah, open to any Q&As from anyone from the audience at this time. And I see that I think Bernard already answered a question. Looks like Lisa had a question. Can I sell cold held food to customers who will then reheat it themselves? And Bernardo's answer says MEHKO does not allow that practice. It's usually cooked and served the same day. Setting up kits would require PFR, which is a state permit, and need a commercial kitchen.
There's another one there.
Oh, Lisa has an additional question. It says, have there already been MEHKOs approved? And yes, we have approximately approved 10 at this point.
Anybody else?
I think JC has a question, Bernardo.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
You have a MEHKO and a CFO, but you have to keep documentation separately.
Is up to
The operator to keep these two things separate because there's different type of inspections. One sticks with the state approved list, which is very specific. And the MEHKO is more for potentially hazardous meals being prepared at that household. Anybody else?
You can say, okay.
Okay, well, if no one has any further questions. Today's presentation, the recorded one, will be available online on that MEHKO Kitchen webpage in a few days, if not earlier next week. The PowerPoint itself, we do have the English version available, which is the one we're showing you right now. There's a Spanish translated one and a Chinese translated one that is already posted on the webpage. And all of those forms that Andre had mentioned during the training, such as the SOP forms, the intermediary list is already available on the webpage as well. So a lot of these resources will be already posted on our webpage. If you do have additional questions, there's also contact information on the webpage. If you have some questions that you come up later on that you can think of after hearing this presentation. Just want to thank everyone for their time. I know everyone's really busy, but if there's no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the session. Last call for final questions.
Thank you.
Don't see any hands or questions. So thank you everyone for your time, and I will end the session.